Just in case you thought the 2021 title race wasn't controversial enough already, the FIA have now declared that Red Bull broke the budget cap that season. Max was called plenty of names after taking the 2021 Drivers' Championship title in controversial circumstances, but this new drama has seen him branded Max Vercapen by many fans. The question everyone wants answering now is, will he be giving back his Drivers' Championship title? And Hamilton's fans want to know when they can start celebrating his 8th World Drivers' title. After some delay, the FIA announced on Monday afternoon that Red Bull had breached the F1's financial regulations with a minor overspend of the $145 million 2021 cost cap, while Aston Martin and Williams were deemed to be in a procedural breach of the rules. A procedural breach is just a misfiling of paperwork. In Williams' case, they submitted their budget returns a day late and received a $25,000 fine for their mistake. In Aston Martin's case, they probably just ticked a wrong box somewhere on the form or misdated something. Either way, it will be of no consequence. Red Bull's offence is much, much worse though. A minor overspend doesn't sound too bad. If I minor overspend my monthly budget, it's probably only by $5 or so, because I needed another 6-pack of beer to drown my sorrows with. Now Latifi is leaving. My budget is only $500 a month though. Red Bull's budget for 2021 was $145 million. Do you see where this is going? A minor overspend, as per the cost cap regulations, is anything up to and including 5% over the budget cap. That means in 2021, Red Bull could have spent an extra $7.25 million on top of the $145 million budget cap. That is a lot of beer. They could have thrown Latifi the best leaving party in history for that kind of money. Obviously, they didn't though. That money is likely to have been spent on their 2021 title-winning car. And this is where the problem lies. Following the announcement that they had failed to stick to the 2021 budget, Red Bull expressed its surprise and disappointment at the FIA's verdict. We note the findings by the FIA of a minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations with surprise and disappointment, the Milton Keynes-based team said in a statement. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings, as our belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. Despite the conjecture and positioning of others, there is of course a process under the regulations with the FIA, which we will respectfully follow while we consider all the options available to us. The others Red Bull are referring to are of course the other teams, more specifically Toto Wolff, who obviously has had a lot to say on the matter. We'll come back to that though. First, let's look at what their minor overspend might be. Like I said earlier, a minor overspend means anything up to 5% above the budget cap for the year, which in 2021 means $7.25 million over the allowed $145 million budget. Only in Formula 1 could you call $7.25 million a minor overspend. In fact, even in the F1 world, minor is misused here. Imagine if Red Bull's car was 5% faster than it would have otherwise been, thanks to the overspending of the budget. Max wouldn't have just not won the title, he would have struggled to score any points at all. Obviously, that isn't exactly how it works, but you get the idea. Calling this a minor overspend is just madness. In Japan, Ferrari team principal Mattia Binotto put it in terms we can all understand. 5 million is about half a second. Even 1 or 2 million is about 1 or 2 tenths, which is about from being second on the grid or being on pole and maybe having the fastest car. The penalties that are at the FIA's disposal are incredibly vague. This is F1 after all, so you shouldn't expect the rules to be clear. Depending on how big an overspend it is and how helpful Red Bull are to the FIA's investigation, the punishment could range from something as small as a reprimand, basically just a slap on the wrist, all the way up to points reductions and punishments in upcoming seasons. Lewis Hamilton fans are obviously baying for blood. Max Verstapen fans are claiming it will be nothing but a slap on the wrist. The rest of us are sitting somewhere in the middle. The reality of the situation is that Max or Red Bull or both could get a points deduction for the 2021 season. The Drivers' Championship was only decided by 8 points, so if the FIA decide that is the route they want to go, then Lewis might finally be awarded the 8th World Drivers' title that many think he deserves. The problem with making a prediction about the punishment is that there's so little known about what the actual offence is. Right now, as far as we know, Red Bull could have spent anything from 1 cent to $7.25 million more than they should have. So, what do we actually know for certain? In its release, the FIA points out that all teams supported the auditing process, all provided the necessary insight, all cooperated and acted in good faith at all times. These lines are very important because it hints at the fact that Red Bull didn't go over while trying to hide something from the FIA. Instead, it implies that maybe they genuinely made a mistake in interpreting the rules, something that is incredibly common in a sport that's all about pushing the rules. If a team were to deliberately attempt to hoodwink the auditors, they would face a much more serious punishment. We also know that Red Bull used one of the fabled Big Four accounting firms to audit its cost cap submission. These firms manage the books for most of the Fortune 500. They don't make mistakes, and Red Bull would have been 100% confident they were within the cap when they submitted their forms. And that's about it. For now, that's all we know for sure. If the FIA wanted to handle this situation in such a way that created speculation, news, and interest in the sport, then they've gone about it the exact right way. If they wanted to handle it in a way that showed them as a straight and to-the-rules organization that's capable of running a sport, then they've definitely failed. The 4 missed deadlines that the FIA set to issue the certificates definitely doesn't help. We might not have many concrete facts yet, but there are a lot of reports saying similar things about what might have caused Red Bull to go over the cap. There are several points of disagreement between the FIA and Red Bull according to the reports. By its own reckoning, Red Bull has come in a few million US dollars under the budget cap. The FIA will have interpreted some of the items Red Bull has submitted differently. What this means is that things Red Bull have omitted from the cap for whatever reason are actually included in the cap in the FIA's eyes. We've read a lot of rumours that Red Bull have excluded things like sick leave and hospitality costs, while the FIA has included them. Others are pointing to how staff are paid as a potential for the discrepancy. The top 3 earners of each team are excluded from the cap. In Red Bull's case, that would be Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, and maybe Pierre Wash or Helmut Marko. Adrian Newey may be paid as an external consultant though, not a full-time employee, and as the brains behind Red Bull cars, he will be paid a lot. The costs he bills to Red Bull for his services might not be excluded from the cap because he's a consultant, not a salaried employee, and instead someone who earns much less money is having their salary excluded from the cap instead. The guessing game will go on for weeks now until the FIA or Red Bull tell us exactly what's happened. Until then though, everyone will be thinking the worst. The FIA has a bad habit of making deals behind closed doors. Mercedes didn't take the FIA to court over the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix because of a mysterious deal made in Mohammed bin Sulayem's back room. What if Red Bull do the same thing now? It is within the FIA's interest to avoid an open controversy. Much better for the image of its premier sport to keep everything in the dark. With the World Drivers' Championship on the line though, Mercedes will do everything in their power to avoid that happening. Toto Wolff said at the Singapore Grand Prix, "If it is a so-called minor breach, I think the word is probably not correct. If you're spending $5 million more and you're still in the minor breach, it still has a big impact on the championship. In a championship as close as last season, it would have taken much less than $5 million to have a huge impact on the outcome." Mattia Binotto gave us an idea of just how much a difference money makes in F1. If there is a breach, the penalty has to be significant. Our car has been developed respecting the budget cap, and we know how much even a minor breach would have implied in performance. $5 million is about half a second. 1 to 2 million is 0.1 to 0.2 seconds, which can be the difference between second on the grid to pole. For Red Bull, there is no escaping this. They made a mistake and they're going to be made to pay the price. Many will want that price to be the 2021 Drivers' Championship. Whether that will happen or not remains to be seen. No matter how this gets resolved though, fans will forever remember the outcome of the 2021 season with skepticism. Want to know more about what's happening in F1? Then click the video on your screen and I'll see you there.